Have you supports ever struggled to find farm? What does it mean to be efficient as a support player? Well, today's video is hopefully going to answer those two questions for you. Let's go ahead and get started. So this replay is from a 3.5K support player that I coached. And we went through a process that I see many support players, even all the way up to 6K, struggle with. And so the problem with supporting is that you don't get to farm very much. Like, you don't get to CS in lane. There's very small windows for when to farm. So the questions are, how do we know when to farm? How do we know we're not griefing the game in order to prioritize ourselves as supports? But how do we also make sure that we're having impact? So we have two scenarios in this game where we're going to go through a 4-step process that you guys can master. You can optimize over time to know whether or not you are being efficient as support. So farming as support and being efficient comes down to balancing between team fights. So the most important thing that I have you guys to ask yourself today, this is step 1 of the process, is when we're fighting, when we're grouping up to take an objective, whether it's a pick off, a tower, a Roshan, or in this case, you know, they're diving for kills, then a tower. When is it over? What I mean by over means a lot of different things, but largely, when am I no longer needed? And when is the opponent clearly not going to fight back? Or when are we clearly not going to chase for more? You know, these are thoughts to be had that would continue the engagement, whether or not the objective's still there, like Roshan, whether or not everyone still has their abilities, so they want to fight again. The question boils down to, when is it over? So as you can see here, we're going to play out the clip where his team is diving bottom. They get 2 kills. They have 4 heroes here, where they get a kill on the enemy carry. There's 4 heroes here. And I pause right now because the carry's dead. We see Axe mid. We see Morphling top. These are all indicators that this is quote unquote over. That's the first step. Identifying that the play is over. If you ask yourself this question, that often makes you check around the map. It often makes you check your resources, your teammates' resources. This is like mentally resetting to figure out what's currently happening in the game. We just got done with some crazy ass shit diving a Bloodseeker. So what that does, step 2, is to check the map and check resources. This is something you'll naturally have to do in order to answer the first question. So not only are we going to be checking what's happening around the map to tell us that it's over, but now we want to check and see what's in store for us next. So when I'm a support player, I'm going to take a quick glance at my cooldowns and as well as my mana and health. And I can also do the same thing for my teammates, you know? Like, I can see Void Spirit still has decent mana, still has 1 Astral Step. Viper is going to have his ulti soon again. Going Maelstrom might be like, not doing anything with that. And most importantly, we have 62 mana, no wand charges, but we still have an ultimate. So what that means is currently right now, the fight is over. We do not have the resources to keep fighting. And since we don't have the resources to keep fighting, but this leads us to the next question, how much time until we want to go again? So say his ultimate was on 50-second cooldown. That means that he has about 50 seconds to go ward, to go farm a creep wave under tower, go pick up a rune and walk back to base. But in this case, he has his ultimate, but no resources. And they're winning by 4K. He may not know the exact amount, but they're winning. So he wants to fight immediately. So when it comes to resetting your resources, this answers your question of how quickly I have to do that. Do I have time to go farm? Do I have time to do something else? So in this example, since he wants to go again, the other 2 lanes are about to be pushed into his towers, which means the opponent's going to be pressuring potentially. And he still has his ultimate off cooldown. We want to reset as quickly as possible. So the optimal play for him would be to go back to base with a TP, reset his health and mana. This specifically works really well on Spearbreaker because he can charge back out of base, and then look for a play as soon as possible. What this means for you guys is I want to tell you this is a thought process that all pro players go through, and if you get better at it, it's just the higher MMR you go. It's not a process that it's different than pro players. It's just how fast you do this. So in this case, he has 1.6 mana regen, 13 mana until he can TP. He has 7 seconds before he can TP. Maybe walk over and consider picking up a Lotus if there is one. There isn't one, but there could be. Consider looking for a D ward while you're here. Or just look to hit the tower a few times and then TP home. The 4th thing that we need to do is based on how quickly we are able to fight or how much we want to fight, what is happening in that time. So in this first example, it's 9:31. This means you have to check the clock, which is a very good habit to get into, is runes. So it's 9:31. If he TP's home in 7 seconds, now he's in base at 9:41. Mana regen, mana regen, mana regen. Charge back out to mid lane for the power runes. And that's because there is always something to do in the Dota game. So one last step through this 4-step process. What is happening around the time that we are ready to go again, or what is happening before that that we might want to stall in case we don't have our cooldowns available yet. So in this case, you're gonna see that he could potentially go home at 75 mana, right? So what we're gonna see is he could go home right now. Sure, sticking around. He could hit the tower a few times, he could run at the Skywrath Mage, but the second that this is done, he would TP home and be ready for the runes, right? Right now, because he would have already been thinking about that 10 or 15 seconds ago. So however long between now and TPing home it is his MMR. That's how much he's gonna be lower than optimal, right? Suboptimal. We're gonna see 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, you know, this is 15 seconds, and he ends up TPing home. And on top of that, he even gave himself Mango and Clarity, which is something Spearbreaker doesn't need because he's sitting in base. He could go for actual items like Stick, Wand, stuff like this, Raindrops. So these are added inefficiencies for his specific hero. But it's nothing fancy, guys. That amount of time indicates your MMR. So we're gonna see another example. This one, I'm sure you guys are familiar with. His team just got 2 kills again, and they took mid tower. So this is another time where we ask ourselves the exact same questions. So first and foremost, let's talk about what you guys tend to do wrong, and I see it all the time. It's too early to pressure mid tier 2. They don't have some hero to push the tower. Yes, they have Shadow Shaman wards, but the opponent's going to be respawned. So let's clear up the air and say there's no way they're pushing this tier 2 tower. He even told me he didn't think they should push the tier 2 tower, but his team was doing that, so they stuck around anyways. So what do? They end up holding each other's hands in the mid lane as we stare at the opponent. We stare, we stare, we stare. We spend 4 heroes here. Low skill stuff that BSJ Season is coaching all the time. Let's just chill here. Let's just chill. Sure, Axe walks into us and we get a kill, but at the end of the day, what else is happening? We're just sitting here chilling, sitting here chilling, sitting here chilling, sitting here chilling, and then he charges bottom. Now, why is it so important that he charges bottom? Because that is an example of inefficiency as support. So let's go ahead and rewind. They took the tower. It is over, right? When is it over? It is over. What are his resources? He's actually pretty healthy. He's got half, like 2/3 health, almost full mana. He's got Raindrops, Mangoes. So he's got 49 seconds before his ultimate is available. That means that he's healthy enough to stay on the map. He's healthy enough to be ready to fight, but he would prefer to do other things because his ultimate is on 50-second cooldown. And not to mention, he also has 1,500 gold. So a little bonus on top of this is, if you're queuing up your next item, you'd be thinking, say he's going drums. He might be very close to his next item, which entices him even more to have a bit of efficiency. But if his team doesn't need him right now because they're pushing tier 2, which is not something he wants to do, these are the moments where you check around the map and you look for farm. It's even better on a hero like Spearbreaker because you can potentially TP away or charge all the way across the map and get yourself some farm. If you were a support that wasn't global like Spearbreaker, you might have to walk bottom, nuke the wave really quickly, and then walk straight back. You know, you don't have too much time because, yeah, it's 50 seconds, but 15 seconds traveling there, 15 seconds traveling back, and then you got like 10 seconds on top of that creep wave, right? So if we see here, we have a big creep wave that he could go push right now. And he would do that, which means while they look to push tier 2, potentially, say his team chooses to stick around, this lane is also getting pushed in. This lane is also farmed by him, so he's getting extra gold, extra experience, reaching his item timing sooner. So what are we getting at with this entire video? People tend to undervalue efficiency and farm on supports. I'm not encouraging you guys to turn into carries. I'm encouraging you that if you go through this 4-step process after engagements for objectives or kills, you will find those small windows of farm on the map to ensure that you guys get the items you need and have impact in the game. And it'll also help you be aware of what's going on in the game. It forces you to ask yourself the right questions. And it's also ensuring that the lanes get pushed in, all the things that you guys need to set up for the macro scope of the game to ensure that the future fights and the momentum that you currently have can be carried on even further. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about it all. See you guys next time.